So good morning guys. So welcome to today's pre-market analysis. So let's start with Nifty today. So we will have a quick review of what happened yesterday in the market as per our analysis. So yesterday you can see here that we have plotted the pivot line for the yesterday's previous days at 25 160 to 160. It was 160 exactly, but we plotted it at 150 yesterday. So you can see that we explained with a clear start above this pivot line with a higher volume will definitely lead to the first target, which was at 25 250, and you can see that clearly it have given a proper, let's put it on 15 minutes chart. So here you can see within first 15 minutes it have achieved the initial 250 target, and even if you weren't able to take an entry up to from this level also, you could have taken an entry over here with an SL at the pivot line. So you can see here that it have attained our R2 exactly, which was at 25 350 range, and it consolidated near to the 300 level. So yesterday we witnessed a, like, the buyers are actually back to the market after uh, so we can clearly see that the buyers are back to the market. You can see that it opened nearly above the 25 150 level, and it gained that momentum with a good volume, and it went and it gave a breakout above our first resistance, and this, it retested at our second resistance, and it closed nearly at 25 300 level. So let's plot out today's level with respect to our pivot line for the day, pivot point for the day actually. So I hope that my screen is kind of visible. So, so yesterday's level were these. So let's mark today's level. So you can see here the chart pattern, which was a symmetrical triangle. I mean, it's also respected here. Let's see if we get a reverse from here this point, or it's gonna give a breakout out of this symmetrical triangle pattern. So let's have a look at that as well. So what is going to happen in the market? So as per present condition, and there is a chance there is US Fed rate cut news are also coming up, but it is not, the rate cut is not yet updated, but there are chances. So it can also boost our indices in Indian market. So let's start with today's level, Nifty. Let's start with today's level. So as usual, let's start with our pivot point. So I'll mark today's pivot point as 25, 25 to 80 level. So let's mark this 280 into 300. Today's pivot level is 25 300, which is, let's mark it at 290. It is exactly 286. So with respect to the pivot point, let's mark the support 1, 2 and 3. Follow support 1 is at 25 200. The first support I consider 25 200 as the support 1, and S2 will be at 25 100, and obviously S3 will be at 25,000, which is a psychological level. 25,000 we consider it as a psychological level. So we have seen multiple times it have been bounced from this 25,000 level, as well as it has reversed from that level when it comes from the downside. So when from outside it have bounced, so we consider 25,000 as a psychological level. So let's move back to the resistance. So we have already marked all three support levels. Let's start with the resistance. So resistance, I find 25 400 will be the R1, and R2 can be considered as 25 470 with let's mark it as 25 500, and R3 will be 25 600. 25 600 will be the R3. So these are the levels for the day with respect to our pivot point. So you can consider 25,000 as a psychological level, even if market comes down to that level, I find a buy the dip opportunity as long as our Nifty 50 stays above the 25,000 levels. So these are the three levels with respect to our pivot point for the day, which is 25,290. So support 1, 2 and 3 and resistance 1, 2 and 3. So with respect to this, we can mark today's bullish consolidation range bound zone and bearish zone with respect to these levels. So I'll just mark it out initially. So before that, let's mark the pivot line and our R1 as usual. So pivot point, you can see 25,150 was yesterday's, today's is 25,290. So the R1 level will be R1, you can see 25,400. Yesterday's was 25,250, which we got a proper breakout about that level. 25,400 is the R1. So you can clearly see that the movement yesterday, we had a good positive movement in the market with a good volume, and we can clearly see that the buyers are back to the market. So as per the levels, let's mark the zones. So let's start with the bullish zone. So as usual, I always converse R2 and R3 as the bullish zone. So R2 is 25,500 and you can see R3 is at 25,600. So this I consider the bullish level. So it is clearly above our symmetrical triangle pattern above that level. So let's see, let's validate it with through same way, the volume way. So if we get a higher volume, definitely these levels are going to be tested. So let's quickly mark this range bound market level as bearish level. So range bound will be between R1 and S1. So if market is going to give us a consolidated move or a range bound move, definitely it will be between R1 and S1 level. 25,200 is the S1. Oh, I just 25,200. This level I consider to be the consolidated level. So range bound, if Nifty is staying in a range bound way today, so it will be in between 25,400, which is R1, and between 25,200, which is our support one. So let's quickly mark the bearish zone as well. Bearish zone will be always below 25,200, which is our support one, and support 2. Let's mark it support 2, which is at 25,100. 25,100. 100. So this will be the bearish zone, and if any sudden surprises happens, then if it comes below the support one, chances are there we will get up to go down up to 25,000 level if it properly give a breakdown below these two levels. So if support one is being broken, then if it is being tested, and with the similar sentiment, if it is coming down, definitely 25,000 level are gonna be retested. So as long as it stays above this 25,000 level, I see a buy the dip opportunity in Nifty. So these are the levels and zones for the day. So as usual, if the market, so you can see that yesterday Nifty is clearly above today's pivot line. So if this movement sustains with a higher volume, one second. So if this similar movement sustains with a higher volume above this pivot line level, we can see that pivot level line. So this is the R1. So let's R1. So if Nifty is staying above our pivot line for the day, which is 25,290, 300 range with a higher volume. So with a higher volume, we can definitely witness a movement up to R1 first. We can ride, we can move up to, we can get these points easily with a move up to the R1. That similar movement continues with that same volume in the market, then we will consider our these two levels, which is 25,500 and 25,600. So similarly we can make this level as our trailing SL point. So if we see a movement above this, we can keep the support S1 and R2 can be considered as the validations levels, to be frank. So if a movement above this R1 is witnessed, we validate our bullish movement for the market, the continuation of bullish sentiment in the market. So any movement below this S1 can be considered as a bear flip in the market. So this R1 and S1 can be considered as our validation level. So any movement above this R1 will validate our bullish zone, so we can use any more. So if we consider this level to be our entry point anywhere in between this, so we can keep the S1 as our SL or stop loss level at S1. Any movement above this level with a strong volume, then we can trail our SL to our pivot line or R1 level. So when it get retested, I suggest a partial booking method can be done, so for a safer trade holding. So if we know that if we partially book with a trailed SL, then that holding part, the rest of the holding trade will be considered as a risk free, because we already have book the profit as well as we are holding that particular load with the trailed SL cost. So definitely it's going to be a risk free trade. So these levels can be considered as trailing SL or partial booking levels. So let me explain it one more time. R1 and this one can be considered as our validation level. So any movement with a higher volume above this 25,290, which is our today's pivot line, then market I have so sorry, 25,290 level, which is pivot line. Any movement above this with a higher volume. So I suggest I expect a movement up to R1 initially. Then that similar momentum continues with that volume. Then these two levels, the bullish zones, are going to be tested. So this gray part is our consolidated range bound zone. If Nifty stays in between a range, then definitely it will be between R1 and S1. So even though if it is a consolidated movement, we can see that R1 is definitely going to be tested. We will get a good point. See, 290 to 400 means almost 100 points are there in between. So we can easily write that point. So any movement above this level can be considered or validate our bullish continuation in the market. So these are the levels for Nifty 50 for the day. So you can see so now let's move on to Bank Nifty. So we'll see Bank Nifty. So in Bank Nifty, this is yesterday's pivot point, support and resistance. You can see that similar movement also happened here. R1 have been tested and it nearly came up to 20 50. So you can see that 56,922. So 950 was our R2, almost it was tested at the level. So clearly we can see that the buyers are back in the market. So let's have a look at today's level with respect to today's pivot line. So I'll just start with the pivot line. PP I considered 56,740. This is still the PP. So let's mark to 750. So S1 will be at 56,550. This will be the first support. S2 will be at 56,300 and S3 will be at 55,150. So these are the three support levels with respect to the pivot point. So let's go with resistance 56,980. Let's keep it 980 only. So R2 will be at 57,150 and R3 will be at 57,400. So these are the levels with respect to the pivot point for Bank Nifty. So let's mark the R1 and pivot line. So yesterday it was 480, today it is at 750. Pivot point 750. So it is clearly above yesterday's first R1. So R1 for the day is at 56.98. So we have marked our pivot point level for Bank Nifty and R1 as well. So let's sort this out on the basis of bullish, range bound and bearish movements. So let's mark this out. So 56 in bullish zone, R2 and R3 can be considered as a bullish. So 57 150 and 57 400. So these are the bullish zone. You can see that previous highs are kind of near only. So but for the day we consider this as the bullish zones. So let's mark the range bound movement. So range bound movement will be always between R1 and RS1. R1 will be 56 980 and S1 will be at 56 550. So this range bound zone, let's mark the bearish zone as well, which will be below S1, which is 56 550, and S2 support 2 is at 56 300. So let's mark S3 as well. S3 is at 56 155 150. It's not 55 150, actually it is 56 150. This 56 150. So these are the zones and support pivot point level for Bank Nifty. So as usual, so any movement above. So clearly similar to Nifty 50, we can see that Bank Nifty also have closed above today's pivot line yesterday. So you can, it is clearly above this pivot point. So any, if this level pivot point level is sustained with a high volume, definitely like yesterday we are going to witness it going to test at R1, which is at 56 980 level. This levels is going to be tested, and any breakout about this level with similar volume, then we can witness that it's going to test on the R2 and R3. So similarly, like I said in Nifty, we can consider this level to be as a trailing SL point or partial booking point. So keep this in mind that any movement above this pivot point with a higher volumes, with a higher volume in the market, then it is going to test initially at 56 980, which is our R1. Well, let's simply mark it R1. This is R1. So R1 is going to be tested, and after this similar volume and sentiments continues in the banking sector, then definitely this R2 and R3 is going to be tested. So as per present situation in the market, so we have seen that previous day here at this levels, we have seen a profit booking at this consolidated level. So you can see that on the third day it impacted with a profit booking. This is actually a profit booking happened in banking sector. So and even after that it sustained with a good, the buyers are back in the market. You can clearly see that with yesterday's movement in the Bank Nifty. So today also any, if a sustained movement above this level with a higher volume, then we will witness a similar movement like yesterday. So R1 will be tested at first, and breakout above this level with similar volume and sentiments, this it is going to come up to their bullish zone, which is at 57,150, followed by 57,400. So these are the levels for Bank Nifty. So we can consider R1 and S1 to be our validations levels. So any movement above this will validate our continuation in the bullish sentiments, and any movement below this PP and it couldn't sustain or retest or reclaim back this level, and any movement continue to hit on S1, then we can invalidate our bullish continuation, and we can consider a bear flip in the market in the Bank Nifty sector. So these are the levels for Bank Nifty. So let's quickly have a look at our Sensex part. So this is Sensex level for yesterday. So here also we uh, had a hit at our R1, which was 80 to 400 from the level 80 to 130, which was our pivot point for yesterday. So usually what happened in Sensex, it usually mirror Nifty 50, but yesterday we had a little bit stone bite in Sensex. So you can see that here. So this is yesterday's open. So it was kind of different from what Nifty was doing. So a little slight difference was there, but the movement was also kind of bad in Sensex yesterday. So, but anyway, we got our breakout above this R1 level, which validate our bullish continuation in this Sensex also. So with respect to today's levels, let's mark down today's pivot point and other resistance and support levels. So today in Sensex, I consider pivot point to be at 82,480. This will be the pivot point, and S1 will be at 82,250. Let's keep it 250, but it is exactly 238 or 240, but let's keep it at 250. And S2 will be at 81,850. 850, and S3 will be at 81,600. So these are the three supports, and let's mark quickly the resistance as well. 82,850 I considered as the R1, and 83, it is 83,000, 83,100 as the R. Okay, let's mark R2, 83,100 to be R2, and R3 will be at 83,470. Let's consider these. So these are the levels for the day, support and resistance with respect to the pivot point for the day. So let's mark the pivot line. So pivot it as 80 to 480. 80 to 480 will be the pivot for today's market. So R1 will be at 80 to 850. Will be R1. So let's zone this out on the basis of bullish, range bound, and bearish movement, usually like we did it in other two indices. So R2 and R3 can be considered as 83,100 as the bullish zone, and 83,470. So these levels I consider. So here you can see the previous nearest high is at 83,140, near to our 100 R2, and after that we can see that the high is at 84,000. But anyway, for today's range, with respect to today's pivot point, we consider this 100 and 470 as the bullish zone. So we have marked the R1 and we have marked the pivot level. So let's go on to the range bound zone. Range bound will be usually in between R1 and R2. 82 850 is the R1 and 82 S2 is at 250. 80 to 250. So this will be the range bound zone. So let's mark the bearish zone. So it will be below S1, which is at 80 to 250 to 80 to 81 850, which is our S2. So let's simply mark the 83 as well, which is at 81 600. So these are the levels and zones for Sensex for the day. So here similarly like Nifty and Bank Nifty, Sensex also closed above. Sensex is spot trading at spot is at above our pivot point. So if this sustains above with a higher volume, then definitely um, a bullish continuation will be there. The first initially it's gonna hit our R1, which is at 80 to 850. So if similar movement, similar sentiment as of now continues, then our bullish zone is gonna be retested. So like it will be at 83 100 and 83 470 levels. So these levels are gonna be tested again if this momentum, if this bullish momentum with higher volume, higher buyer side volume is continuing, this bullish momentum can be validated. So in this also R1 and S1 can be considered as a validation level for the directional trade. So any movement above this will validate our bullish continuation. So any movement below this, so first level this can, so on the downside 80 to 480, which is our pivot line, can be considered as a bear flip only, and bear flip chances comes below this, but we can validate it only if it comes below our S1. So I see a bear flip chance only if it comes below this level, this S1 level. So these are the levels for Sensex. Let's so pivot point, with respect to pivot point R1 R2, these are the bullish zone, these are the range bound zone. So a validation level will be still at R1 and S1. So let's have a quick look at Nifty 50's RSI, relative strength index. Here you can see below. So on a 1 day time frame, you can see that it is at 62. It is neither it is almost kind of near to the overbought zone. So let's see if it is um, reversing back from this 68. So last time you can see it came up to 68 almost. So here you can see that 68, and then it reversed and came back to 38, and it bounced from there. So here we can see what exactly happened. So if it is gonna bounce or reverse back from this level, then our symmetrical triangle is gonna be the pattern is gonna be respected. So to any validation level, as I said before, the validation levels will be still at R1 and S1. So any movement beyond these two levels with a higher volume will give a proper validation to our direction in the market. So pivot line with a higher volume. So why we are focusing majorly on the volume? Because means the trading sentiment in the market is directly involved with the news based approach. So whatever news impact is putting pressure on our indices, then it is directly affecting the traders sentiments in them. So volume can be considered uh, for validating our movement in the market. So let's have a quick look at our GIF Nifty as well. So we have our pre-market opening levels as well. So GIF Nifty is trading 42 points above, which validate so anyway we got this pre levels. It's going to be start at 25.90. It is clearly near to our resistance itself. So a bullish validation is being seen. So Gift Nifty also is trading above 40 points above. So let's have a quick look at FIA data. What happened with FIA? So it's an odd day yesterday. It was an odd day. You can clearly see that FIA also entered a net value in positive, and DA also continued its buying strategy. So you can see that for 4,000, almost 4,500 crore have been added by a DAA to the cash market, and here you can see that FIA also added 161 crores to the cash market. So let's focus on FIA's derivative status. So FIA's derivative data, if we see, so in 15 October 15 also it was closed net bullish, so which validate our positive or bullish continuation in the market in all three indices. So it clearly validates the more bullish continuation in the market. So today, well, let's wind up for the day. I wish everyone a good day, and proper risk management should be kept with these levels which we have marked can be considered as your trailing SL levels as well as the partial booking levels. These are the zones. So have a very good day, and thank you guys. My God, I didn't knew guys my voice was low. Same.